A very warm welcome if you're just joining us on Morning at NTV. That's the hashtag on Twitter, Morning at NTV. Be part of the discussion. Now, more than ever, your input is needed as a citizen of this country to be able to help the policymakers understand exactly how you can prepare for a disaster. What we do have right now is a little bit of dilly-dallying here and there. A Prime Minister who is vacillating. Of course, here on the show, we are joined by MPs John Musila and Karim Masaba, that is Bubulo East and Mbale City Industrial Division, respectively. I'll be going to them shortly, but just give you a preamble of what is happening right now. On Sunday, July 3rd, residents of Mbale, Greater Bugisu region and Sebei woke up to unprecedented devastation from flash floods. Rivers Nabuyonga and Namatala that cut through the heart of the region had burst their banks following over 8 hours of torrential rain Saturday night. By press time Monday evening, the number of the dead was 23, and the reported destruction to property, including schools, homesteads, and farmland, utterly unimaginable. The scale of despair as we came on air this morning is grim. Rescue efforts were manned largely by local volunteers in a country with one of the most funded militaries in the region. The sheer lackluster response to the disaster by the central government is untold betrayal to a people already grappling with harsh economic times. That is poignant. Honorables, Karim Masaba, welcome to the program. Welcome to John Musila.
Thank you.
Before we go any further, the uninitiated in the geography of the region want to understand Nabuyonga, Namatala rivers. How do they cut through the terrain?
These are mountain rivers. Maybe me?
Okay, please.
Flowing from the mountain.
Yeah.
We are blessed the Ugandan side of Mount Elgon that we have a myriad of rivers, by the way.
Okay.
When you go to the Kenyan side, they are much more fewer. So we have many of them: Nabuyonga, Namatala, Nasibiso, Manafa, Wahaha, you talk with Sipi. You talk all of them come from the mountain.
How does Namatala, because it seems to Namatala and Nabuyonga seem to be the larger and, well, as we see, the most ferocious.
Ferocious when they flood. But the biggest rivers around here,
they give life.
Are, of course, actually, water is life, you know, and they have given life all through, ever since creation of this mountain and us as humans. But of course, once in a while, and because of our own activities as humans, we are very destructive. Possibly that is why.
Within Mbale town or Mbale city, the metropolitan area and the hinterland, how does Nabuyonga cut through? Yeah,
actually through the middle of the town, Nabuyonga and Namatala, actually they are through the middle of the town. At one time, the Rio CBD, the commercial area, is a bit on the higher land, but over time settlements and whatever, now we have entered the river banks where we should have had marshlands and whatever. We have entered there. Okay, that's the trouble.
Honorable. When you look at these rivers, as my honorable colleague has put it forward, they cut through the middle of town, and most of the water that is flowing through these rivers comes up all the way from Wanale, that is the areas of Bumboi where my constituency begins from, that is from Mototo, and the water keeps flowing downwards through the city. And Namatala, given that it passes through perhaps the biggest slum in Bugisu sub-region, that is Namatala. Yes, that is why you're seeing a lot of havoc and impact, but most of these rivers pass through right in the middle of town. And they have put bridges to cover up where the roads intersect with the rivers, but they are right through town. So whatever impact, whatever happens to these river banks and these rivers directly impacts the life of the people in the city.
So where do the reports and the pictures and footage that we are seeing, especially the very tragic incident of a super custom that had at least 11 people in it that died, apparently is on Kumi Road, as you're heading to, they were going to a place called Kabangasi. What is that area like? Is it near, is it the one that is near IU?
Yes. When you look at that incident, it happened actually, I believe that is right at Nabuyonga, which connects to go to IUIU. It's more of it's called Nabuyonga Rise.
Nabuyonga Rise.
That is where the biggest havoc usually happens. The road that connects to go up to Soroti.
That's right.
And then it connects to the other part of town.
So if at the lower areas of this immensely, uneven terrain is causing this kind of havoc, how is the situation in the mountain ranges where, the places are very prone to landslides? Are we on the verge of something greater than what we are seeing?
Oh, yes. The aftermath, I want to tell you, the first thing is the rivers flowing from Wanale, from one of the ranges of Mount Elgon of Wanale. The rivers are in their young, youthful stage. If you learn geography, and you are all under A level, you know what it means. Yeah. We are now seeing it, what we had in the classes, we can see it verbatim, or rather, clearly.
Yeah.
Now, as these rivers get down to Mbale town, they are simply entering the middle stage, and they are still very violent, extremely very violent. These are not the biggest rivers in the region, by the way. We have Manafa, we have Ruahaha, and Sipi. Sipi as well is not very, very big. But when they begin, when it rains torrentially up in the mountain, they become terribly strong within their youthful stages. Now, the settlements as well. Bugisu is one such place which is heavily populated, possibly 1,000 persons per square kilometer. And you know what it means with the pressure on the land. So we settle even within the river banks. And there is that traditional saying, even amongst the Bagisu, a river bank, even when the river changes course, at one time it will come back.
It will come back.
Now, we are so, I don't know what has blinded us that we settle into the former river banks. But now when they flood, usually they come back, the rivers come back.
Yes, the Prime Minister, in one of her interfaces with the media, spoke about the threat of environmental degradation and was very quick to throw the blame on the human settlers within these areas. And when you speak about the fact that there is a tendency to settle in former river banks, this speaks of a society or a community that is not attendant to this threat and perhaps is okay. What should be done? Aren't you doing enough sensitizing these communities and residents?
I believe it's a weakness in our government. That is something that we should put more emphasis on, because when you look at the policies concerning environmental degradation, then partly the government is to blame, because when you look, for example, the pictures which we're showing around of the industrial parks, in Mbale Industrial Park, which was completely flooded.
That's right.
This entire area has been a swamp, and it's government that gazetted this land and gave it out to set up these factories. Yes, we need these factories, but where are you putting these factories? You look at Namamve, what is happening in Namamve right now. Namamve has been a swamp, helping get all this water that is flowing around Kampala. That is the same thing with Mbale. Most of the area that flows from Namatala, usually that area is called Doko. So it usually goes around that area and accumulates there. So right now, as we speak, water probably has nowhere to go. Most of this water has nowhere to go, and many of these people have been settled in these areas for years. So if government wants to help, then I believe it would be best for government to compensate our people very well, such that these people can be moved. And government promised us resettlement caps and all that, but there has been this has been a very slow initiative by the government, which I believe it's something that should be fast-tracked, because you cannot tell these people to leave the river banks when they have nowhere to go. Many of them have been born there. They have stayed there for the last 20, 30 years in Namatala. So where do you want these people to go? So
what areas have been identified that have higher ground and perhaps flat enough to ensure that human settlement can be sustainable?
Initially, the government had settlement caps for people in Chiriandongo, which many of our people had a bad attitude towards because they were given small plots of land, they could not do farming, and many of them are used to our fertile land in Bugisu, where they are able to grow something to survive on. So many of them had to actually come back because they found life very hard. There were no schools, they were given incomplete houses that they were staying in. So that was one of the biggest challenges that we faced, and us as leaders, it was very hard for us to talk to our people to tell them, you stay there probably, because the life there was hard, and government came up with another idea of setting up another camp closer to our people, that is in Mbale. But they had planned to construct over 800 homes, but as we speak, for
900 actually to be specific.
Yes, they have only constructed about 100, which are very few compared to the people who are living in these risky areas. So, us as the Bugisu Parliamentary Caucus, we had a discussion, and many of us interact with these people, and we know what they want. And people were suggesting to be given money to move. They're saying, we don't want you to push us where you want. We want to go where we believe would be comfortable with, somewhere closer to our families. So
perhaps before you make that point, you complete that point, the tendency to say, give us money so we can find where to go. The humans are creatures of habit.
Yes.
Many of them will go for areas where they feel comfortable, and it could not be, they might not be mindful of the terrain again. They could go to a more dangerous place. So it's imperative that government actually plans. But let me ask you the uncomfortable question. As members of parliament, there is a lot of, well, call it noise right now, in terms of the calls the appeals you're making to government. You know very well that these disasters happen. You know the terrain. You know the rains. And when they come, the kind of havoc.
All the circles, we know.
You've been silent. What kind of opportunistic agenda is there right now if you make a lot of noise, but you've been quiet?
Moderator.
Yes.
We may not have been shouting before the press, but we already on the floor of parliament last year.
Take us through that.
Last year, I spoke about it. Just today's Tuesday, 2 weeks ago, I was on the floor of parliament on a matter of national importance, and I spoke. If today I did the clothes of a prophet, then I would be a prophet, to be sincere. Because I spoke just 2 weeks ago. I said, we have danger. Unlike the rest of this country, with drought, I've been in Western Uganda and whatever, Bugisu region has been having rains throughout, at least intermittently or something like that. But I want to say, I was LC5 when we began this issue of resettlement. Now, in Western Uganda, in Bunyoro, where we resettled the landslide victims, and mainly we have been focusing on landslide victims. It happened in my district of Manafa. It first happened in Bududa, and the Bududa is an epicenter of all these landslides. We took people to Kiriandongo. I wish also to say, when you see people going back to see their relatives and making a trade, that does not mean that they have run away. But I think on the side of government, I'm not here for blame game. No. It is not right for us to blame government all the time. We may have a bit of money problems and whatever. The houses in the Kiriandongo are not completed clearly and properly. Do you know how many Bagisu are in Bunyoro? Actually, the biggest non-Banyoro tribe in Bunyoro are Bagisu. Bweyale, Kiriandongo, Kigumba. A flood of them, by the way, on their own. And they went there over 100 years ago, over 50 years ago. They are settled there. If you go to Kigumba, actually every 10 buildings, 8 or 7 belong to the Bagisu. So they already settled there. We have Waswahili wanasema. Now, the shouting today is for short term. We have got an emergency.
That's right.
And the government should come in to save the situation. Now, these are the attendant effects later. It has affected Bugisu. Do you know how many pit latrines these floods have emptied into the rivers? Now, downstream, the districts downstream, Butaleja, We have many other districts down there.
Yes.
The effect is there. Now diseases are going to come. The other side, the upstream rivers and the districts, we are going to have landslides. As I talk 200 meters from my home, in the Bumbo Town Council, where you would think the slopes are slightly gentle, I have cracks in one of the wards called the Rwanda ward in the Bumbo Town Council in my constituency. Just a stone throw from my home. It is bad. So the after effects of these floods, these flash floods, we will have landslides, which I warned in the parliament just recently. And of course, diseases. This is why now we call on government to move in a direction that we must salvage our people. I must on the behalf of other Bagisu and my colleague here, we must say thank you, government. Already the response is there. OPM is on the ground.
Exactly.
And the Prime Minister.
That brings me to the question I was going to ask. I'll be coming to you a little bit later so you can take us through what kind of agricultural practices can be adopted on the slopes of Mount Elgon. More like it is the case in Western Uganda, where there is terracing that seems to be able to guard against such incidents. What is the response plan right now? Because on ground, the reports we are getting, the pictures that we are getting, show the locals are grappling with, you know, helping out, even removing the wreckage of the cars from the waters. You are privy to this plan. Take us through what response plan has been.
We have been shouting. I have met the Prime Minister's office, the Prime Minister, formerly Dr. Ndugu, Ruhakana Rugunda, and many others. And as a region, ROC5 and MPs of the 9th or 10th Parliament, we talked.
That has been lobbying. Right now, what is the plan?
The plan should be one, to resettle. Now,
let's be clear. Should be. In other words, you are saying
it should be.
You've said the Prime Minister's office is rolling out a response plan.
Yes, exactly.
As members of the parliamentary group, have you been looped in on this?
No, of course, not as yet. I must say, not as yet. My colleague is here.
All right.
Not as yet. But this is what we think. If we have to be in a meeting, number one, speed up the Bunambotier building. The UPDF and the police are there. Only 100 and maybe 20 or 30 houses built out of 900.
All right.
You see? But now, if we had about 500, maybe we would have gotten all these people in danger, especially landslide danger. There is a crack in my district in Namisindo. It is bad. It's very bad.
All right.
So,
Honorable Karim, you seem to be itching on that particular subject. You also take us through agricultural practices that ought to be adopted to ensure that there is a bit of mitigation measures that are naturally undertaken by the population.
I think I'll begin with a point my honorable colleague, Honorable Musila, was on. Yes, fortunately, the Prime Minister was there while she was among the first people who ran to Mbale. But our expectations were high, and people were excited when they saw the Prime Minister, but unfortunately not much was done. She left a package of about 15 million to help with the families of those who had, whom they had found who had passed on, which we believe was minimal. But we expected a lot. The expectations were high, so we're a bit disappointed. And according what you've been seeing in those images, it's the local people who are doing most of the work. The people from the OPM's office arrived yesterday, and they only had a meeting. They had a meeting with the local leaders, so they have not been directly involved in the rescue missions, and it is one of the key issues that I noticed, and I wrote yesterday to the office of the OPM, and I wrote to the Speaker about the same issue, because right now many of our people who have been affected don't even have where to sleep. And would expect a temporary shelter to have been provided by now. 2 days means a lot. 2 days means a lot when someone is sleeping out, because the rains are still there. It's been drizzling the whole night.
Still pounding.
So we expected that a temporary shelter would be provided, food we buy today. People should be having some food and clean drinking water, because the entire almost Mbale town, we don't have now clean water. Yes, because most of our water
has now been contaminated.
It has been contaminated. So that is the danger we are now worried about, and we expected that we would have food, we would have shelter, we would have medicine. Ambulances were around to help, the ministry ambulance and private ambulances to help with moving these people who had been injured. That was good, but we still need a lot to be done, and we need finances, money, hard cash, because people are strained right now financially. People have to bury their loved ones, and if we had maybe a package or something assigned to go and help for over the 20 families that have discovered the bodies already, so it would be quite good.
Allow me push that further, because before you came on the show, we had an interaction with my colleague about the role of the military in this particular disaster, and how best the army can come in to ensure that, most importantly, evacuations are done, but to help those who are grappling with the basics. UPDF has a full division in Bugema, that is in Mbale. The level of response to a disaster must be, there is no excuse about logistics or even distance. Has the army come on board? Have you engaged the army?
Yes,
or have you been told there is a plan?
I had an interaction with some of the colleagues there in Bugema, Bomageni military barracks. But in Bugisu, we are saying that once you lose a child and your neighbor loses a child, you will have to first bury your child before you run to go and bury for the neighbor. So that is the challenge we face, that these rains impacted the barracks as well, because it's next to Nashibiso stream. And when you look at the bodies that were discovered, 2 of them were military officers.
So UPDF,
guns are even missing. So we don't know up to now how many actually are missing and how many have passed on. And I believe many of them must have been running to save their property and find a way of also surviving, because they were impacted by the river as well. So right now, it has been hard for the military to come in, and that is also an issue of concern, because we expected that they would be helping out, pulling out those vehicles, not the locals. Even we had to solicit for money and to buy ropes to pull out those vehicles, to pay some, because some of those people who are doing that manual labor need something to eat. So it's really been tough, but I've written to the office of the OPM, and hopefully we'll be getting the necessary help.
Before you transition into the other question, do prepare some response to what can be done in terms of a national disaster preparedness action plan. We do not need to be planning right now. We should have planned a long time ago. Right now should be response. But allow me ask you the aspect of agricultural practices that are sustainable. What we see in most parts of Kigezi and Western Uganda is a mode of terracing. This one, right from primary, you're told, is effective in holding water flow, soil erosion, and seems to be effective. We never really hear much of landslides, though there are scattered and sporadic cases. Isn't it something that the community can be allowed to adopt?
I believe terracing would be good for our communities as well. But the biggest challenge, as we've put it forward, is that we need to move these people. We need to get them
completely get away from the
because most of these people are staying in the mountains. I have my great-grandmoms. My great-grandmom, she's still alive. She's staying on this mountain, and she has failed to move.
All right.
What do you mean?
No.
I've just lost my great-grandmother 4 or 5 days ago. Mine, I'm 57 years.
You're 57.
Yes.
So the challenge I faced,
conversation about life and longevity in Bugisu will be fair.
I tried to move her. I told her these areas are risky and all that. But up to now, she still digs. So she wanted land to dig. She wanted a very comfortable place, one which is favorable and comparable to where she has been. So that is the challenge we are facing, that if we are to terrace these areas, it means these people have to move away from here in order for us to do whatever we plan on doing, which is still hard right now, given that when you look at the slopes of Wanale, I think we grow a lot of matoke around there, a lot of beans, a lot of coffee and all that, because this is what we survive on.
That's right.
So in order for you to tell people to stop growing matoke and all that, you have to give them a better alternative to that. Because how will we survive if we don't have the matoke, if we don't have the coffee, if we don't have the marewa?
Right.
So
we've entered the final bit of this discussion, and I would like to ask you, Honorable Musila, what is a sustainable disaster preparedness and response plan the nation needs right now? Because these disasters, including, for example, like Kasese, are perennial. We know it's going to happen.
Yeah, very true.
As members of parliament, the discussion of matters of national importance comes through on almost a weekly basis.
Yes.
Why aren't we mapping out these things and ensuring that you give the country something that is working?
We have a ministry. Although its preparedness is slightly wanting. We don't have to blame them too much.
Yeah.
But I think their immediate, mid-term, long-term planning is wanting. For example, we have shouted in Bugiso, which is the epicenter of all landslides in this country, put evacuation centers as number one.
Yes.
Because landslides, like I've said on the floor of Parliament, don't simply happen. They warn you.
That's right.
They warn you with the cracks and whatever. 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 2 years, 20 years, the crack is there. You know it will happen at one time. So you must put evacuation havens. You get me right? So that in case it happens, you are able to evacuate people.
All right.
Number two, to me, resettlement is good. And we must encourage the government, build up Bonambutie, Kiriandongo, and other resettlement areas.
All right.
But the speed is so low, snail speed. Number three, we proposed, and I did it, with compensation. You know, Rwanda Ward in the Bumbo Town Council, cracks are there. Compensated these people so that they look for,
can go away.
Go away. In Bulambuli,
Yeah.
a house is estimated at 50 million. 50 million, then 2 acres of land, possible also 50. Give 100, just across the board, give 100 million to such affected families. They can find their own even cheaper land. They can build even cheaper houses by themselves.
You could also
Now, number 4.
When you hand money.
Exactly. What?
You could also cause new problems.
No, yeah,
by handing cash.
Yeah, of course.
Comes with problems.
Of course. That,
All right, number 4.
Number 4, creating a ministry. Different regions of this country have their unique problems. If Karamoja
has one,
Luwero, Bunyoro, name them.
Bugisu should also have.
Bugisu should, and I've been shouting this for the last almost 10 years. That's the truth of the matter.
Honorable Masaba, what are we doing after the show?
Right now, I'm still going to engage the office of the APM, and we see how much and how fast government can act, because the necessities that we believe we need right now have not yet been provided. And I had the engagement with the speaker, and she promised to push on her front as well, and I believe it will be on the floor of Parliament today as well, because our people are dying and grappling, so we need government to act very fast. This is an emergency, and we know the money is there. We've appropriated it as Parliament. As I speak right now, many roads have been washed away. You're only looking at town. You're only looking at town, but the effect is up in the villages. Some of these bodies could have actually been washed from up. So,
all right, Honourables Karim Masaba, MP for Mbale City Industrial Division, as well as Honourable John Musila from Bubulo East. Many thanks for joining us and giving us perspective on the disaster. We do hope all efforts to ensure the response is effective and sufficient. I was trying to get to grips with something that came up apparently on one of the platforms as we were closing, and I would love to a little bit shift from protocol and just ask the simple question, not simple as such, but pertinent question, I must say.
Pertinent,
The industrial park, Chinese industrial park that is built, it should be between Doho and Kamonkoli area.
Yes.
Tell me about this. Did it survive?
No.
Did it cause some of these problems?
It was fully flooded. But this was during colonial times. By 1903, Kakungulu had taken over that land. And it is owned by, bigger expanse of it is owned by the Kakungulu family. Now, Bugisu Cooperative Union owned that place until 2008, when 619 acres were sold to government of Uganda through Uganda Investment Authority. You get me right? So while it is true, it is supposed to be a swamp, but it has been owned for over 100 years by government and then Kakunguru. You see that kind of thing.
So some of these investments are, well,
Yes.
ideally the causes of the,
Yes, you know,
or they exacerbate the whole disaster.
We usually, I believe, we have to look at the cost-benefit analysis. And see.
Okay.
So partly it is a problem, but it has been a solution to unemployment and some of the key issues. And it is one of the most affected in these floods. The entire industrial park is flooded. And right now, I believe they will be closing for some time. And what does it mean for our people? Because they are paid on daily basis. Thousands of people are employed there and they are paid on daily basis. They earn this daily income. So what are they going to feed on? You know, these people of ours, once he spends 3 days without working, then it's another problem. Some of these youths could go and turn into thieves and do things that are...
There's a lot that can be done.
Yes. So we believe government should act fast, and these people who have been working in this...
Our political leaders in Mbale district consulted on some of these investments that are rolled out, especially within the industrial park.
Yes.
You were consulted?
Yes, we were consulted. The members of parliament of the time, before establishment of that industrial park, were consulted.
So
that's how they acquired that land.
Done,
yes.
And the land was
everything, all the environment assessment, impact assessment was done, everything like that. But you know, I have to also say, once in a while, you have disasters. Just like Europe is suffering with fires and whatever, you have that kind of problem. But like my colleague said, benefit analysis, the people we employ there,
growth and
then comes at you know, the multiplier effect of the economy, the local economy around Mbale is huge from that industrial park, by the way. So, yeah, that is it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that is going to be done in terms of reflection and food for thought from the political leaders in the region, but most importantly also on the part of government, especially when it comes to the speed of response to disasters, because we do know these things have been happening right from 2010, and we must be seeing more concerted effort. How is the Red Cross on the ground? What's the footprint of the Red Cross and other private rescue partners?
They have been there. That at least I would like to acknowledge. The Red Cross has been there and it has helped a bit. But the missing part was the military and the personnel who can go into the ground and pull out. The Red Cross, they are there to help those who are particularly injured.
Especially with the ambulances, whatnot, and the medication to the survivors and even treatment of the bodies. Red Cross is on the spot over that one. But I thought the state, especially the military, should have been there. You saw the clips, individuals pulling at the risk of their own lives.
And even with, you spoke about something, the saying in Lugisu that if you've both lost children, please first bury yours
before you go to the neighbors.
The UPDF having also been affected, especially the barracks in Bugema. The UPDF is a huge army. Within the country, we can quickly mobilize other soldiers from other parts of
divisions.
You know,
this is 3rd division, another division maybe, and a specialized brigade.
Special paratroopers, so to speak.
Because they should be helping construct temporary homes now for some of these people.
All right. Before the government comes in, what's the fundraising drive that has been put together by MPs?
With the MPs, we are already mobilized, and we are going to respond with
Tell us about that.
Some simple cash, but at least not below 1 million each MP. And we are 25, that is 25 million. This is a paltry, it's very small, but it is worth than nothing.
And as the area member of parliament, I've so far spent about 10 to 15 million. So far on this course, but it's still minimal compared to the impact and what we need. That is why I'm right now in Kampala. I'm supposed to be on ground.
That's right.
Yes, but I'm here trying to see how best government can help, because as MPs, it is really hard for us to contribute a significant financial bit. So only government can come in to provide something which is lump sum, which we believe will help our people so much. And right now we need food urgently, we need shelter, we need water, we need money compensation for some of these people. We need
the medicine.
We need UNRWA to run to us right now, because the money for the road fund had not yet even been released, and the city has no money actually to help with some of these roads to ease the movement of our people. So we are trying to push at the front this side as well.
I'll not go out of this studio without saying thank you, Prime Minister, for the response. Immediate.
She was there.
She's a real patriot. The 4 principles of NRM, one of them is patriotism. On her way, she was there.
That point is made.
And I want to say thank you so much.
All right, of course, I'll now have to sign out officially and finally. John Musila, MP for Bubulo East, was joined by Karim Masaba, the MP for Mbale Industrial Division. Many thanks for that update. And of course, we do hope all effort that is being geared towards a response to help those who have been affected by this latest disaster does yield results as soon as now. We're taking a break, but Morning at NTV continues. That's the hashtag on Twitter. I'm at Chris Higenyi. That's my handle. Do follow. The conversation can continue there.